About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had Andrew Hyatt on, the director of the new film, Paul, Apostle of Christ. I mess up the title every single time. It's going to be, that's Sony's big Easter release, Paul, the Apostle of Christ. And when I first went to one of Andrew's screenings, this incredibly attractive, eloquent young lady came up to me and said, hi, I'm the sex lady. And I thought, gee, I've dreamed about this day for years, but I never thought it would really happen. But Joanna Hyatt, Andrew's absolutely beautiful and intelligent and also beautiful wife, it was the sex lady because she would go around giving speeches about responsible sex and how to treat yourself, how to treat your body, how to treat your soul. She had a wonderful line. She would say, "There's no condom for the heart," and I thought that was an absolutely brilliant line. She is now the director of strategic partnerships for Live Action, a nonprofit that educates the public on abortion and the humanity of the preborn. They have terrific, very successful videos. We'll talk to her about it. Joe, it's wonderful to see you.
You're so kind, but you forgot to mention I was about 35 weeks pregnant when I said that.
Were you? See, that's why you were so beautiful.
That's really good.
That is why you're so beautiful.
Like a beach whale at that point, but I knew what I was talking about, I guess.
I guess so. Well, you look great still, and it's lovely to see you. I always say I never see my friends. I only interview them at this point. But
no, you look great from 1,500 miles away. So.
I know, it improves me tremendously. So you're working with Live Action. Who's the leader of Live Action?
Lila Rose.
That's right, Lila Rose.
About 15 years ago.
And it's got this really interesting way of approaching this. But I want to talk to you first about this recent vote in Congress that failed to outlaw abortion after 20 weeks, which I keep reminding people is 5 months. Now, I looked at that failure and I asked myself, do they really want to do this? And that's what I want to know. Do you think that there's any political will to curtail abortion or stop it?
I think it's shocking to me how extreme the Democrats are, except for the 3 that did vote in favor of the bill. But, you know, you've got a mayor's poll just came out that showed 3/4 of Americans actually want to limit abortion to the first trimester. So you've got the Democratic Party voting over here and the American public's on the other side of the spectrum. And so I think they're so entrenched with the abortion lobby that they can't see even beyond what's best for them as a party. Republicans, I think, do have the will to do it. Not all of them. Murkowski and Collins consistently vote in line with anything that promotes abortion, protects Planned Parenthood. So we need to see a shakeup of the Senate before we're going to actually successfully, I think, jump some of these hurdles.
But you think it's possible? You don't think this is just virtue signaling?
Possible.
Okay.
I think it's possible because the people are in agreement with restricting abortion. And so it's more alerting them to, hey, your senator, your congressman voted actually in a way that's very extreme and outside the norm and against what you believe. So if you want to see changes, change who's in office.
You know, I mean, one of the things that always strikes me, I think it strikes everybody who deals with this subject, is that if it is true, as it seems logically it must be, that an unborn child is an actual human being, you know, an actual individual, not the mother, it's not the same DNA, it's not the same person. What's happening in our country, which I think is 3,500 abortions a day, is a catastrophe on a major scale. I mean, I always tell people that while they're pulling down statues of Robert E. Lee, remember the statues of the people who supported this atrocious moment that we're in are also going to be pulled down when people catch on. But it seems to me that somehow the culture has to shift before we can deal with this. The mindset has to shift. And that's kind of is that the idea of Live Action?
Yes, and that's what we're working on, is getting people to understand actually what is abortion and the humanity of the child. And, you know, a couple years ago, we released a series of videos called Abortion Procedures. And we use medically animated graphics. We know that seeing a real abortion can be quite traumatic. And we wanted to invite people into the conversation who might not actually know what abortion is. And so you see these 4 videos narrated by a former abortionist, and the response has been overwhelming of people saying, I had no idea, this changed my mind. And I think we assume everybody knows what abortion is, but we're actually not talking from a place of knowledge because that word has been kind of cleaned up and dressed up. And one in particular that's striking to me, we took it to the streets and showed it to people. And one guy said, he starts off with, you know, we asked him, are you pro-choice? He goes, well, I'm hella liberal, so of course I am. And at the end, after watching one video, he says, I think we're more humane in the way that we put down animals than we treat these
Wow.
children. And so being able to understand in 3 minutes what abortion is about is why live action exists, to be able to help change people's hearts and minds. Because you're right, we have to move the culture before we can really see politics respond to where people are at, and a demand for a change on behalf of the unborn.
I mean, it always seems to me with the left that nothing drives them crazy so much as the truth, the direct truth. And when I listen to the people at Planned Parenthood, and I have to believe that these are not like satanic evildoers who delight in killing children. I mean, I have to believe that they are not seeing what's right in front of their eyes. But when I listen to them, as a writer, when I listen to their use of language, the fact that they will not say the words, they will not talk about an unborn baby, they will not say, they constantly direct words away from the facts of the matter. So let me just run a couple of their arguments by you, and just let me hear what you have to say. I mean, the big one is always, well, if we outlaw abortion, there'll be these back alley abortions. We'll go back to this world of back alley abortions, and women will be dying all over the place.
Well, I think first of all, we have to remember that those numbers that they're based off of were trumped up when Larry Ladder and Bernard Nathanson were pushing for abortion. They inflated the number of women that were getting these back alley abortions. And those abortions were occurring, by the way, by very reputable doctors. So it's not, for the most part, women were not taking coat hangers to themselves. And the reality is right now, women, go and get abortions because it's easy, it's accessible, and in a lot of these places, it's really the only option presented. Staggering numbers of women will say, I felt like abortion was my only choice. I felt like I didn't have any other support. And so the emphasis is saying, how do we come around a woman and really support her as a community? There's a lot of government programs, there's a lot of private organizations that do excellent work in walking through women in these situations. And the left wants to completely discount that, as though a woman is not strong enough or capable enough to walk through a pregnancy and raising a child. And I think it's fear-mongering, and you won't actually see massive amounts of women running to grab, coat hangers and find doctors in back alleys. What you're going to see is women who are saying, you know what, I think there might be a better way, and I think I can do it. And we as a society can step up and support them and help them in that.
The argument that always stopped me, and it took me a long time to come around to where I am, I was pro-abortion for a very long time, and I've told this story before, but I lost an argument with a friend. I argued with him till 2 in the morning, and I walked away, and I thought, gee, I lost that argument. And it still took me over a decade to change my mind. And the argument, the reason is I want people to be free. I'm not an entire libertarian, but I'm mostly a libertarian, and I want women to have the lives they want. And I understand that there's a tremendous disconnect between a drunken hookup that you might have, and suddenly not only have you got a baby inside you, but it's that guy's baby, some clown's baby that you didn't even like to begin with. So what is the argument? I mean, when women say, hey, you're forcing me to carry this child, how do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, first of all, no one's forcing anyone. We're not bandaging you up and keeping that baby inside of you. But I think, one, it's a disconnect of understanding rights. Like that child also has rights. And you as a woman got these rights to choose what to do with your body. Well, when did those rights begin? And if they didn't begin for you in the womb, then when at what point? Because that same child that you are now carrying has rights that need to be on it. As you mentioned, it's a separate person. And, cases of rape and incest, I understand that was not a choice, although that child still has value. But in every other situation, you made the choices that got you to that place, which is really hard for us as a society to talk about. And I think the root issue is that we don't want to address that our sort of freewheeling sexuality has gotten us to this place where we still have to deal with consequences. Yeah. And the left doesn't talk about that. This total reproductive feminist movement wants to say, your body, your choice, and yet you have to deal with what those choices lead to, just like you would with a sexually transmitted infection, the emotional impact. That's why I talk about no condom for your heart, because we don't talk about the emotional. And so the idea is that in this case, you have two competing rights. And the Constitution guarantees the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you don't have life, you can't pursue the others. And so that child's right to life, in this case, I would say trumps your right to be able to take it or leave it. And there are, again, a lot of people who would happily take that child and raise it and love it. But I think we have a lot of work to do stepping backwards to help people understand your choices have consequences. You cannot separate sex from reproduction, however much you think you can.
I once very tentatively mentioned this to a feminist that, you know, babies don't just get in there by lightning. You actually have to do something. And she said to me, I don't know anybody who thinks that way. And I said, I think that you may have hit upon the problem there, but she never spoke to me again, so I guess I overstepped on. Now, let's talk for just a minute. I'm running out of time, but I do want to cover that one thing about rape and incest. That's always the question that they ask pro-life candidates, but they never ask the pro-choice candidates. They never say, you know, are you in favor of aborting a child because it has red hair? Because that's legal. It's, you know, it's legal to abort a child because he's a Libra instead of a Capricorn. So, I mean, they never ask him that question. But how many, do you know how many abortions are due to rape and incest?
The numbers are that 1% of abortions are due to rape and incest. And so those who, you know, there's actually a group called the 1% who are children who have been born out of rape and incest. And they say our situation justifies the abortion of 99% of people. And the tragedy is, you know, those 1%, their value, their inherent worth is not compromised by the circumstances of which they were conceived. I mean, a lot of us were probably not expected, but our parents didn't say, oh, well, you know, because I didn't plan for you. Yeah. And so I think the problem is we have to acknowledge the horror of rape and incest. Absolutely. Like that, what that does to a woman is horrific. But to try to fix one violence with a second violence is not going to fix the issue. And in fact, it just leaves her further wounded instead of really offering help and healing and being able to take that life that she is now carrying. And who knows what the potential is for that child. Just because its father was a rapist does not mean it is going to grow up to be that. Yeah,
yeah. I'm talking to Joanna Hyatt, of the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Live Action, run by Lila Rose. I want to ask you one last question. I think it was Gloria Steinem. I won't be held to that, but she had this, one of the few things she said that I actually agreed with was that a lot of women believe that abortion is justified in two cases, the health of the mother and their personal case. And that was why she believed that abortion rights would never be overturned. When you're looking at the future with the stuff Live Action is doing, are you hopeful? Do you think that this is a fight we're going to win or not?
Yes, I do think it's a fight. 1,000 doctors internationally have said that there's no medically necessary case for a woman to abort her child in order to save life. And so, you know, that argument's taken out. And then I think once people begin to understand really the humanity of their child, and also as we as society come around and support these women, then they're not going to see abortion as their only choice. They're going to realize that there is hope and there are great and beautiful things that can come out of this. And we're seeing a shift. We have one of the most pro-life generations we've ever had in this country. You have slowly, the Supreme Court is shifting in the right direction. And so I do think it's just a matter of time and education, which is what Live Action's focused on, is educating people, this generation and the next, so that we do shift it. And I do believe we're going to see changes, potentially even in my lifetime, at the very least in my children's lifetime.
Wow. From your mouth to God's ears. Joanna Hyatt, thank you from Live Action. It was really good talking to you. I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Drew. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was hopeful. I was happy to hear that. All right.